Hello and salam again. Welcome to our regular news update of Runta News. My name is Mulki Mohamed, and we are glad to present in this edition a special conversation. With me here are two highly valued women in our city of Seattle, Washington, and beyond. I would like to start off with my colleague Julie to first introduce herself and welcome the candidate Colleen to the forum.
Hi, my name is Julie Pham. I have my own consulting practice called Curiosity Base, and I also co-own Northwest Vietnamese News, the longest running Vietnamese language newspaper in Washington, with my family. And I'm so happy to welcome Colleen EchoHawk. You're running for mayor.
I'm running for mayor. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be with you guys. This is going to be great.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
We want to first thank you for joining us in our conversation today. I would like to start off with, can you briefly describe yourself and what your key priorities would be running for Seattle mayor and the agenda on which your platform is based?
Awesome. Well, thank you all for having me. I'm so glad to be here at my house in North Seattle.
Yes.
We set up a nice little studio here, and it's really good to get to be with community. I think that we have all been through some really hard times through this past year, through this pandemic. It's been very, very difficult, and I think that there is exciting times ahead of us, and I'm looking forward to participating in this civic dialogue as I run for mayor of Seattle. A little bit about myself is I was born and raised in rural Alaska, a little tiny town called Delta Junction. I have 7 siblings, so I'm used to sharing. I'm used to being with a lot of people, and I grew up with parents who worked really hard. My family owned a small hotel in the middle of Alaska, so I grew up like working the front desk and cleaning hotel rooms and being a part of a family business, and that's been a big part of shaping me of how I should be in this world. I come from family that have done pretty amazing things and have been examples in my life of leadership. My Uncle John EchoHawk started the Native American Rights Fund. My Uncle Larry was the Attorney General in Idaho. And my Grandma Katie, who I got to grow up with, fought for subsistence rights for Native people in landmark battles that ensured that Indigenous communities could hunt and fish and practice subsistence rights. And that's the kind of community that I come from. For what we're going on in Seattle, we need that kind of leadership. We need vision. We need someone who's been through these hard things and knows what it's like. I believe that in Seattle, our homeless community and our homeless crisis should truly be treated like an emergency. That is a key part of why I'm running for mayor of Seattle. Our homeless community deserves for this to be treated like the emergency it really is. And our neighborhoods and our community also deserve us to be thinking about public safety. What does it look like for us to be reimagining public safety and ensuring that when any one of us walk down the street, we feel safe and secure? We also know that we have a recovery ahead of us that's going to be very difficult. That recovery of COVID-19 is at the forefront of my mind, and I think that together as community in this beautiful city that we live in, that we should be leading the country around an equitable recovery. Those are some of the reasons I'm running for mayor, and I'm looking forward to having more conversation with you all.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
So 2020 has been a chaotic year.
Yes.
And
Yes, it
chaotic
has
year.
been
And
hard.
Chief Carmen Best resigned. Mayor Jenny Durkin decided not to seek a second term.
Yeah.
How are you going to be different from these 2 tough women with strong resumes and many years of experience?
Yeah. Well, I come from a long line of people who have done hard things in the middle of hard times. And I have matriarchy in my family that have led the way over and over again around being consistent, being decisive, being that kind of leader that cares for the community and nurtures the community. And that's the kind of place that I come from in my own leadership. And we know that things are going to be hard, but we need the kind of leadership that is going to hear all the voices, bring everyone as possible together, and then we're going to have to find commonalities, right? We're not going to agree on everything, sadly. I would love it if everyone agreed with me, but I know it's not going to happen. But if we can just find ways, those common places where we all can come together, or as many as possible, and then grow and get the work done, I think it's going to be imperative. I have one of my most important examples of leadership in my life is my grandma Katie John. I spoke about her earlier. And one thing that always sticks in my mind about fighting big battles and about working with community, she says we have to know each other. We have to be in relationship with each other. And I can commit to you all right here that if I'm elected mayor, that door will be kicked wide open. As many people as possible will have my cell phone number. We will have community meetings, as many as we need to get us through this really difficult time. And so I look forward to the opportunity. I think that we have some really exciting times ahead of us, and we should be looking with a real positive lens towards the future.
Focus on communities of color, especially with this pandemic. They have burned the burden of being essential workers. Some businesses have to close due to the digital divide. Students have a lack of internet access or adequate internet access, along with computer equipment such as laptops, iPads, and along with their families struggling with priorities of daily life. Yeah. How would you go about addressing these inequities going on in our communities?
Oh, it's such an important question and something that really keeps me up at night. I know, first of all, for the essential workers, I am so lucky to run the Chief Seattle Club. We're a day center. We're an essential service. During the very beginning stages of this pandemic, we have stayed open. We've only closed one day during the pandemic just because someone had COVID. We had to clean, but we stayed open, and those first couple of months were so hard because I would go down there too to work, right? Because it didn't seem fair that I was asking everyone else to go, but I wasn't going because we didn't know exactly how COVID was working, and we didn't have proper protective protection, right? PPE, and so I know and I feel so much for the essential workers who really have been hurting during this time. We also know that the digital divide is something that we should be gravely concerned about. We know that our BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities have just been truly suffering through this, and it is never okay for that to happen, especially when we've known better, right, in the city. That's part of the reason I'm running, is we have known that the digital divide is significant. And then during this pandemic, it has been illuminated in a huge way. At the Chief Seattle Club, we have an apprenticeship program. And this apprenticeship program is to help people get back into work. We have, a lot of them are homeless, some of them do have homes. One of the things that came up in our mind is well, this could be a time to help them, build their resumes and do online training. So we thought, let's get laptops to them. We went out, we found the dollars, we got them laptops. We got them laptops, and they're like, oh, well, they don't have Wi-Fi. So what do? We go back to the drawing board again, and we again find the dollars and get the Wi-Fi into their home. So I've been really proud of finding those ways and seeing those inequities. I think another reason that I'm the right person for the job is that I have experienced those inequities myself. My community has experienced those inequities. So they are top of mind for me and will continue to shape my leadership as we go forward. So I'm really sad to have to answer this question because it's absolutely abysmal and should not be. But we need the kind of leadership that is going to lead with people first, understanding those needs and taking direct action so that we can support our communities.
What are the silver linings that we haven't been fully taking advantage of?
Yeah, it is such a positive and great question. Thank you so much. And I think that we do have to be looking forward, recognizing that there are going to be opportunities that come out of this. And that's, again, part of the reason I'm running. I think this is a generational opportunity to transform our city to be truly equitable. I spoke earlier about how we have known for a while about some of these inequities. One that I always think about is our infant mortality rate for BIPOC communities is truly horrific in a city like Seattle, where we have such a thriving healthcare system, one of the best children's hospitals in the world, and yet our infant mortality rates for Native babies are 11% in this city. That is something we have to take action on. And so when I think about the silver lining of this opportunity is to think about the new resources that are going to come in, the new ways that we're going to do business, the way that we are reckoning with race inequality in our city. We have an opportunity to change those inequities and ensure that all babies should thrive in this region, and that we all should have those opportunities, and not just equal opportunities, but equitable opportunities that recognize that the systems have been set up against some folks. So we're going to have to tear those down. And so when I think about those silver linings, it's let's tear down those systemic barriers that have held communities back and let's be excited about the opportunity to see everyone thrive in our region. Yeah.
How's your approach going to be different in addressing small business owners, entrepreneurs' needs?
Right.
How are you going to be different from previous administrations?
Yeah. Well, I am a small business owner and I feel that frustration. It has been so hard through this pandemic, and I also can remember the times in our own little hotel motel in Alaska when I would go into a room that someone had just trashed, and you just look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, like this is money out the door that needs to go on the table. And now we have been faced with that with this pandemic. I was in Pioneer Square several times a week during the early stages of the pandemic, and now I'm still going back and seeing the boarded up windows, seeing the businesses that have closed down. So the opportunities for us as a city are big, and there also are huge issues, right, with business. I do think that there is work that we need to do to decrease the bureaucracy, to make things easier, to break down those barriers. I've been talking with our team and our kitchen cabinet and our campaign, and we are very aware that those systemic barriers are a problem and are something that we're going to be working on, working with city employees to see like what can we do to, of course, hold people accountable, but to make it as easy as we possibly can for our business owners. I think, I've mentioned I want to hear and talk to everyone. That includes city employees. Like I want to hear from them. I want them to tell me like, hey, these are where we see problems, and here are some potentials, opportunities, and ways we can innovate. I think we're going to have to innovate a lot. Hopefully we can, this city, we're known to be incredible innovators. We came up with airplanes that fly in the sky, not 737s and Starbucks. Like the whole world drinks coffee now because of something that started off here in Seattle. We have to have that same kind of attitude about recovery. We have to think of ways to truly incubate small business, especially BIPOC businesses. And we have to find ways to get young people involved. I want to see what the young people have to say about business and how they can be involved. We should be, there's 21-year-olds out there who've been kind of doing school from home or whatever. What have they been thinking and innovating? I want to hear that, and I want us to take those ideas and make it happen.
Perfect, thank you. Gentrification has been another problem that communities of colors have been facing, and especially they have been wiped out of the Central District, now Rainier Valley. How would you go about addressing public and affordable housing to ensure communities who are still hanging on will be able to keep their Seattle area and zip code?
It's a big deal. It truly is. The redlining consequences continue to reverberate through our communities, and we have to do more. I live out here in North Seattle. There are not enough BIPOC community who are out here in North Seattle. And the reality for me, the only reason I could buy this house is that my sister helped my husband and I buy it. We collaborated together, right? Because that's how we do in our community. And now, if I was to try to buy this house, we bought this house 14 years ago. I couldn't afford it. I just couldn't afford to live out here. And it's a beautiful place to live. We should have equitable access to every area in the city. And so when I think about the Central District, we really truly have to think about community preference policies. I've worked on those policies at the city level. We have to think about what affirmative action policies for affordable housing that's been built, and I should say affirmative marketing. And we have seen some really positive work that's happened with affirmative marketing of housing for BIPOC community. And we have to build. And I've been building housing, affordable housing, and housing for homeless community. It's hard, but it is not rocket science. And we need BIPOC-led organizations to be building housing. So I'm talking about places that are already doing amazing work. We need to be putting more resources into their hands so that they can be leading the charge around housing. And I've got relationships with like Bird Bar Place and Urban League and Africa Town and Somali Family Youth Services and the Somali Health Board. Like, let's make sure that those are the places that our resources are going to, so that we can truly see all of our community in housing. It is a passion of mine. If you can't tell, I love talking about housing. I will tell you all that 7 years ago when I became the executive director at my agency, I knew nothing about building housing. And it was only maybe 3 or 4 years ago as I realized we have to build housing. And a friend of mine said, Colleen, it's not rocket science. And it's not rocket science. You could build the housing. You should build the housing. And we have to just put the resources into the hands of the community, and the community will build and will make it amazing. And I've seen it happen with my own eyes. I have experienced it, and I look forward to being the person in the mayor's office who's saying, yes, like, let's do it. Let's put the resources in the hands of the community, and it's going to be cool. I can imagine that right now. That's what gets me through the campaign. It's like I can see myself doing it.
Juvenile justice reform, that has been something that was greatly welcomed by communities, especially the African American and East Africans, who were disproportionately victimized by the system. So I was wondering, how would you address something after reform, like what is next, and how would you, is there any programs in mind that you would think about that can invest in those communities, especially the youth of color? Yeah.
Well, again, putting the resources into the hands of community is the most important way, I think, of seeing that happen. And I'm really excited to see like the juvenile justice programs that are that have happened and the reform that's happening. But we have to like continue to make further steps, creating new programs, reinforcing programs that are already out there, and truly again saying to the community, what do you see are the needs? I also think bringing in the youth voice, those folks who have experienced the juvenile justice system, and asking them like, what worked, how did it impact you, and how will we go forward from here? So I look forward to hearing from the community, and just want to say too that I absolutely believe in finding alternatives to juvenile justice systems as they used to be, and pushing forward with new ideas and new reforms. We still have a ways to go. So we've come some far, but we need to go further, and I look forward to encouraging those efforts.
Thank you.
So mayors have to be great coalition builders.
Yeah.
So who's in your coalition? Why are they backing you? And how are they going to support you to build a better Seattle?
Yeah, really great question. And I think, if you look at my work throughout the city, you'll see that I've been in many different places doing all kinds of different work. That's really because I believe in people and like people. I'm one of those people that can have like 10 meetings a day and feel really excited about it. I think that that's a special skill. We have people who are joining our campaign from all over the city. We were the first mayoral candidate to qualify for democracy vouchers. We've raised almost $100,000 already without the democracy vouchers. We have we have over 200 volunteers that are signed up to support the campaign, and it's funny for me because there are people that I had no idea that I didn't know that they were watching my career or watching the work that I was doing, but they believe in the mission that we should be people first, that we should be putting the most vulnerable needs of our community members at the top of the work that we do, and making sure that our communities are heard, making sure that our communities are lifted up and empowered so that we are a better city for everyone. And so it's been really exciting to see like all of this, the many meetings that I've gone to over the years, and people raising their hand and saying, oh my goodness, Colleen, thank you for running. I'm excited to do it. And it's been really, really fun for me to get to see those folks. And I hope to build more people. I hope that, doing things like this today, I hope that my friends out there in the East African community really want to just be a part of this campaign. I want you all to be a part of it. It's important that we recognize all of our community and make sure that everyone has a voice. So I could talk about that for a long time because it's really fun. And I feel really, really grateful for the people that have come out to support and all the donors and volunteers. It's sort of overwhelming and exciting.
Yes, perfect. Finally, what would you like to tell our communities as a candidate as to why you were the right person to vote for Seattle Mayor?
Wonderful. Thank you so much again for having me. And when I think about that question, I think about where I come from. I come from, on my father's side, I'm an enrolled member of the Pawnee Nation of Oklahoma. I come from a community who experienced tremendous hardships. We were at one point a community that was like over 15,000 strong, but because of the genocide of Native people in the early 1900s, there was only 600 of us left. I'm a direct descendant from those 600 folks, and my past work here at the Chief Seattle Club has been informed by those ancestors who have said, take care of the most vulnerable people in this community. And I've been serving our homeless community for the past 7 years at the Chief Seattle Club. I've been building housing, I've been creating new programs for love of them, like the love of people who have been hurting and suffering in this city. I've been working on community police reform for the past 4 years as a commissioner on the Seattle Police Commission, asking for true accountability from our Seattle police officers and the Seattle Police Department. For the past 7 months, I've been working so hard to think about what does it mean for equitable recovery to be the focus of our recovery from COVID-19. I believe that these circumstances uniquely have prepared me to be mayor of this city. I think we have amazing days ahead of us. This is an incredibly beautiful, vibrant, entrepreneurial city. And we should get rooted in that foundation. We should be rooted in the acknowledgement that this is a Coast Salish city named after an incredible chief, Chief Sealth. And I look forward to being in communication and conversation with everyone in this city as this campaign moves forward, because I believe deeply in the community. I believe in the people of this city. And I would ask you for your opportunity to get to know you better, and I would ask for your vote so that we can truly see a generational shift in this city that transforms us to be equitable, that transforms us to be loving, that transforms us to be generous and compassionate, and transforms us into a city that is known throughout the world as being one of the best cities in the world. So thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. Please make sure to share, like, subscribe to Runta News channel at YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.